Good afternoon. It's now 12 o'clock. I'm Anne-Marie Tiernan in for Karen Campbell on this Thursday. Our top story right now, the Indiana Supreme Court hearing on the Delphi murders case. It just wrapped up. It kicked off at 11 o'clock. And this focused on Richard Allen's request to have his original defense team reinstated. Now, Allen is also asking the 5 state Supreme Court justices to remove the special judge, Frances Gull, from the case. Allen is charged with 2 counts of murder. He is suspected in the deaths of these 2 young girls, Abby Williams and Libby German. Both of the teen girls' bodies were found back in February of 2017. Our Samantha Johnson is outside the Indiana Supreme Court right now. She was in the hearing this morning. Sam, thanks for joining us. Tell us what happened and what now is at stake.
Well, Anne-Marie, you mentioned it started at 11 o'clock. It just wrapped up a few moments ago. In fact, we are still waiting for the remaining folks to exit that courtroom. When they do, we will show you that here in just a few moments. The main takeaway today from the attorney representing Richard Allen, his argument was that the judge has the absolute duty to respect Richard Allen's wishes. The Chief Justice, however, pushed back today, saying not always. That hasn't always been the case in situations like this. The attorney went on to say, my client deserves a trial now. In fact, he said the right to a speedy trial for Richard Allen has already been blown out by the judge in this case. Now, he said today's hearing is about much more than just a choice of counsel. It's also about an interference of counsel and a right to counsel for Richard Allen. The justice, however, one of the justices said today's requests from Richard Allen's team, he described them as extraordinary. But his attorney pushed back, saying if we don't get something done today with these oral arguments, everyone is going to hurt in this case, he says, because of another delay. Now, as for the attorney representing Judge Gull in this case, the Chief Justice specifically asked him, did Judge Gull exceed her authority in chambers that day in that private meeting when she essentially dismissed Richard Allen's original defense team? That attorney representing the judge said no, those attorneys made their own decision, and he says, in fact, they had noticed that there were concerns back in October. So both sides today did agree, however, that there is concerns about a tainted jury, and there are concerns whether or not this thing will go to trial. Here's what they had to say.
My client was entitled to a jury trial today. My client's entitled to a jury trial with effective lawyers that he spent 1 year and 3 months developing a well thought out strategy of third-party guilt and a speedy trial to catch that prosecutor on their back foot. And it was blown out of the water from a judge who exceeded her authority.
A hearing was scheduled. Counsel had notice of a hearing. The prosecutor was there ready to present witnesses. And the counsel in this case made their own strategic decision to withdraw rather than go out in open court and have a hearing. And that was their choice. We really don't know what Mr. Allen wants.
And we want to take you now back live inside the State House. What you're seeing now, these are the families of Abby Williams and Libby German leaving the Indiana State Supreme Court. Of course, we know this hearing today lasted about an hour like we anticipated it would. Anne-Marie, of course, now it's up to the justices to decide how and when this case will move forward.
Sam, thanks so much for showing us the families there, because it really does reinforce that all these delays, 7 years since the deaths of those young girls, and time is sort of suspended for the family. So we've been talking about Richard Allen, but we also have to be thinking about the families. And, you know, there's that saying that justice delayed is justice denied. So some movement forward today. What happens now, and when do you think we can realistically expect a ruling?
Well, Anne-Marie, we have heard that saying several times leading up to today's hearing. Those doors opened behind us, so we're going to start having crowds move out of the way, too. What comes next in this case? We know typically the Supreme Court does not get involved in murder trials until after it's done. Of course, now we haven't even scheduled a trial in this case. Experts we talked to say they anticipate we could have a ruling, a verdict, so to speak, in a matter of weeks rather than a matter of months. I do want to show you as we prepare to send it back to you guys. For now, the crowd starting to come out of the courtroom here. So of course, Anne Marie, we're going to be at the State House talking to some of the folks who were inside that courtroom today. You can see here Bob talking to one of the former attorneys in this case as well. So we of course will be here. We'll have another live update for you still ahead at 12:30.